you do carry on. That's my cheerleader over there. Hi, y'all. Anybody here from Tennessee? Cause I was gonna say, if you from Tennessee, I'll talk slower. That's a joke. That's where I'm from. And I grew up, I didn't know that you're supposed to talk faster. Cause I talk real slow, and the first thing they did is they sent me to Massachusetts. Can you imagine what a shock that was? To them, not to me. Anyway, good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to be here.
Woo! Yes.
At my age, it's good to be anywhere. And Wendy tells me I have to wear clothes, so she does take a lot of fun out of things. But I'm supposed to talk about something to do with leadership, I guess. Anybody here a leader? How did you become a leader?
Follow them. Find the leader and follow them.
See what happens? How many people went to a school to become a leader?
No one.
See what happens? So I said to myself one day, I'm gonna be a leader. And I'll tell you how I did it, if you want to know.
Yeah.
This is gonna be quick. I grew up in West. She hides her notes. She doesn't want me to look at her notes. I grew up in West Tennessee, the second son in a sharecropper family. And if you don't know what sharecroppers are, is that it used to be very, very prominent in the South. You would have a family of people that would move on to someone's farm. You did all the work. You lived in their house. You used their tools. And the crop was planted, cultivated, gathered, and then you're supposed to get a share. My dad was a Cherokee Indian, and he never really got what he deserved because he didn't know how to read nor write. But I think he's probably one of the wisest men I ever met. So a lot of the things that I learned in my early years were from my dad, who never even learned to read nor write. He taught me things like, this is exciting. You can't unring a bell that's been rung. Now, can you imagine a 12-year-old? No shit, Daddy. Why would you want to unring it if you rung it? I didn't understand. He taught me a lot of other things. Some of them I can tell you, and some of them I can't. But he was a good man. I remember one time I hit this kid in the head with a little bat. And I got in trouble. And I got home, had to tell him. And he told me, he said, well, take this hammer and this nail and go drive it in that fence post. And I did. Came back, put the hammer down. I said, now what? He said, when you apologize, come back and tell me. So a few days later, I felt bad about it, so I went to Wayne and I said, Wayne, I'm sorry I hit you with that bat. So I go back and tell my dad, I apologized. He said, take the hammer, go pull the nail out. So I pulled the nail out. Came back, gave him the hammer, he said, and the nail. He said, now what's over there? I said, the hole. That's right. You always remember, when you're dealing with people, if you say or do things that hurt their feelings, you can apologize, but you can never, ever undo what you did. In life, that's a very, very important lesson. Because sometimes we say things or do things that could hurt people's feelings, and we just go on like nothing happened. And words never go away. So he taught me that. I grew up with clothes that someone else had thrown away. Never lived in a house that had electricity. School was very difficult because we kept moving. We moved, I think, 17 times while I was growing up. Part of it was because my dad thought he could make a better crop on this guy's land than what we had done before. Never happened. But we kept moving. And the kids in school teased me all the time because I went to school barefoot all the time, even when it was frost and when it first started snowing, and I had no shoes. And my dad would wrap my feet in a burlap bag, which had plenty of holes in it. The water came through, but I had to go that way until we moved to one place, and I'm standing out in the rain, and it's really freezing cold, and I'm in mud up over my ankles. And this woman called me in the house and said, "Come in here." She sat me down, washed my feet, dried them, put a pair of anklets from her daughter and her daughter's Easter shoes, cut the strap off that goes across, and I wore those to school. And everybody was laughing. But my feet felt better because I had something on them that kept them warm. And that girl that I took her shoes is one of my best friends today after all these years. She thinks I'm the greatest thing. It's only because I tell her all the time how great I am. Hey, somebody's got a room for myself. That's me. So I love myself. I think I'm grand. When I go to movies, I hold my hand. Put my arms around my waist, and if I get fresh, I slap my face. So in school, it was very, very rough. And all the way up to when we were going to be graduating, they took the seniors to visit colleges. And they would not let me go. And I wanted to go, and I wanted to go to college. But they said, "No, you're not going to college. You're going to be a farmer." And I said, "No, I want to go to college." They never let me go. What happens if you're poor, and they considered us poor white trash? You're put in a little box in everybody's mind. That was a feather that came out of the box. And was that the chicken poop before? But they put you mentally in a box because you're poor. And that's where they leave you. You try to crawl out, you'll be surprised at how they react to that. So we graduated high school. Everybody goes off to college except Randy. And I hitchhiked away from this little town in Middleton. I wound up in Memphis, Tennessee, and had no place to stay, so I slept in a shed behind a Toddle House restaurant. It's like a Waffle House, Toddle House, you know. And I was there for about 4 months till I could find some place to work. And then I applied for, the Army had a program that you could apply. If you passed all the tests, they would guarantee in writing to pay your way through college. And that's how I got to go to college. 6.5 years. Not saying I was a slow learner now. Don't make any rash conclusions here. I was just diligent. So when I got out of the Army, I went to work in the aerospace industry. I got to back up and say that when I was 14 years old, I used to ask my mom all the time to tell me she loved me, and she wouldn't tell me she loved me. And so one day, I said, I don't care if anybody loves me, I love me. And there's some things that I want to do while I'm on this earth. And I sat down and I wrote down all these things that I wanted to do. Number one on the list, I was going to be a multimillionaire by the time I was 35. And I picked 35 because the banker's son was 35. I figured he was a multimillionaire. He wasn't, but my wrong assumption there. So I wrote down, that was the first thing, I was going to be a multimillionaire by the time I was Jimmy's age. And second, I was going to have food. You can tell I took care of that one. But I overdid that one. So there is such a thing of over-accomplishing. Second, I was going to have my own clothing, which I always wore clothes that someone else had thrown away. And then I was going to go all over the world, and I wanted to meet people from all these countries. Look at you. Look at you. We currently do business in 141 countries. A lot of people. In Tennessee, they use the word mayonnaise. You heard that? Yes. Mayonnaise, a lot of people out there. It doesn't get any better. So, I love you too. So all those things that I wrote down, I was going to be a multimillionaire, I was going to have my clothes, I was going to have food, I was going to have a house to live in that had electricity. We never had electricity. And all these places we moved, we never lived in a house that had electricity. I never had toys, never even had a bicycle, but I was going to have a car because we walked everywhere when I was a kid. So if I look back and say, how did I do? Well, the first big thing was that when I got out of the Army, I went to work in the aerospace industry. I wrote software for such things as the X-15 spacecraft. Then I heard that NASA was coming out with a request for proposal for a launch processing system for the space shuttle. Anybody know about the space shuttle? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I worked on that, and I competed with IBM and Honeywell and GE and Northrop Grumman and Lockheed and Martin Marietta, and they all said to me, "Why are you here?" I said, "I'm here for the business, same thing you are." "Yeah, but," he said, "you're working for that little pissant company down in South Florida." I said, "Their last year's sales were only $2 million. The first phase of this contract is $250 million. I said, "So what's your point? Mm-hmm. If you could do $2 million, you can do $250 million. Mm-hmm. So guess who won that contract?
You.
My first commission check was $6 million. Now I got to tell you something. For a little kid from Tennessee, shit, anything over 4 zeros is a lot of money. So I did like most Tennesseans do that make money. They went out and spent money everywhere. I bought cars, houses, clothes, food. Well, I wasted a little bit, Wendy, you know. A couple million, maybe. But I finally woke up one day, and one day, God smiled on me again, and I met a lady like no lady I'd ever met before. This woman had brains. Most of the people I dated, they're from Tennessee, and they just talk like that. Just like I did, you know. "Where y'all going?" "Well, I'm fixing to go to the store." You know, it's real exciting stuff. I wanted more excitement than that. Wendy was more exciting. So the heavenly choirs were singing for weeks. Look at her. Look, you're so cute. And 33 years later, we still talk to each other. And I love her more every year. And are you still loving me? See, I knew the answer. Okay, so you're going to say something? Are you going to say anything about leadership?
Maybe.
I tried to say something, but I don't know if it worked. All right, here we go.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here and see so many people here at a North America event. Isn't this great? This place is filled. I'm excited. I'm excited to be here at Lead and talk about leadership. I was going to tell you a little bit about myself because I definitely was never a leader. So maybe when I tell you a little bit about my background, you'll realize there's hope for everybody. So I started out in school, I was horribly, pitifully shy. Very, very shy. I had no self-esteem, no self-confidence at all.
I brought it all out.
No, you didn't. See, he wants to take credit for everything. So I was shy and introverted, and all through school, if you looked at me the wrong way, I think I cried. So I didn't have a lot of friends, but I was a good student. I worked hard and I learned. And I went to college, and in college I studied very hard. I didn't have time. I still didn't have self-confidence. I was still very, very shy. But I worked hard, and when I got out of college, I went to a job teaching mathematics. And in teaching, I realized, maybe not consciously, maybe subconsciously, I realized that I knew a lot more than these kids did. And I was teaching them math, and having knowledge gave me confidence. And I wasn't super self-confident, and I still was shy. In fact, when they came to observe, like once or twice a year, they came in your room and observed you, the principal and the superintendent, I would break out in hives. It was so embarrassing. I had red splotches all over my face and my neck, and I was totally embarrassed because I still was shy, and I didn't have the self-confidence I needed in front of the principal or the superintendent. In front of the junior high and high school kids that I was teaching, I did okay, I was fine. So I think what I'm trying to say is what I learned is you have to face your fears. That's the hardest thing. For me, it was facing the fear of talking in front of people, standing up here like I am now. Even before we started Jeunesse, I couldn't do it. I'd stand up here and hold Randy's hand and let him speak because I couldn't talk in front of people. But many of you maybe have fears to face too. And some of them can be contacting people, calling people on the phone, meeting with them to tell them about amazing products and an amazing opportunity in Jeunesse. So we've solved that problem because you have an upline that can do it for you. All you have to do is introduce them to your upline, let them teach about Jeunesse and the wonderful products. And as you learn more and gain more self-confidence, you'll be able to do it yourself. So I find that facing fear, gaining strength, confidence, and courage is one of the main things in becoming a leader. Do what you think you can't do, and you'll grow and be much more confident and be on your way to becoming a leader. So we talk about self-assurance, self-confidence, but you have to be careful. This doesn't mean ego. Too many people, when they gain self-confidence, everything's about them. They become narcissistic and have tremendous egos, and they forget. They have a team to teach out there, people that are going to learn from you. So we want your self-confidence and your strength to come from knowledge, not from ego. And I think if you can remember that, store that in the back of your brain, because that's the important thing. And then, integrity and honesty. You need to have integrity and honesty because people have to trust you and believe in you. If the people you talk to do not trust in you and don't believe in you, you will never build. So you've got two things to work on: self-confidence and honesty and integrity. I found that in building and becoming a leader in Jeunesse, there are some important things you need to do. One of them is to listen. Listen, not talk. You need to listen to your upline for one, so that they can teach you about the business. Be teachable. If you're not and you think you know it all, there it is again with the ego. If you think you know it all and your ego's so big, you probably won't be successful. So it's important to listen, be teachable, and not be a know-it-all, and listen to your team, because they're telling you how they're feeling and what they need, and you can help them. Another thing you need to do is attend as many events as you can and bring the most people. The person that brings the most people to events wins. Whether it's a Discover event, a Lead event, an expo, whatever it is, a university, bring people to the event. If you think you're done because you've gotten wherever you want to go, you won't stay there, because people follow you. If you're a leader and you've learned how to lead, your team is going to follow you. And if you sit around and do nothing, guess what? They will do the same thing. So you need to bring people, introduce new people. Even if you've been in this company for 9 years and you're, a double diamond or whatever you might be, you still need to keep doing this and help your team grow. It's very important. And attending events is one of the main things that you can do to help your team grow. One more thing I want to mention is the incentive trips. And we have an incentive trip every year for all 5 regions. They are designed for new people joining the business. They are designed to help them make attain the number of travel points they need to attend the event for free. So you need to encourage your team to win the incentive events and yourself to win the incentive trips. You need to qualify and help your team get qualified and take as many people on the trips as possible. This is how we've designed Jeunesse. We have outstanding products. I think you all agree our products are the best. Get as many people, yeah, you agree? Yeah. Be a product of the products. I use all of our products. So I think it makes a difference. Hopefully it makes a difference in you too. Use the products, tell everyone about the products, and then help them become leaders, and your team will grow, and so will you. Personal growth is important too. So I hope this weekend you learn a lot, and you take it all home with you, and listen and build and learn how to be the best possible leader in Jeunesse. Thank you very much.